Can you start by telling us a little bit about your character and where he fits into this extraordinary piece of Lovecraft fiction?
Extraordinary is right. I'm playing a character called Ward Phillips, who is someone that plays, I guess, the narrator's perspective in the short story, the original short story. It's a character that Rich was very excited to create and introduce to this movie and our retelling of it, because we can decide the perspective of it. He is the person that sees the madness, that sees the weirdness that's happening, and the only one who can do something about it and injects himself into this situation. He's a very unlikely hero, which is what I like about him. And to sort of tell that story in a very unassuming way was a great opportunity, and especially with this cast and this director.
Can you articulate what the unique magic both of Lovecraft and of Mr. Nicolas Cage is?
Oh my God. I mean, I think everyone who's aware of Rich and especially Lovecraft, they seem to go hand in hand with the brilliant minds that they have, with the stories they create and everything in the Necronomicon, and it's really overwhelming. I mean, Nick, you've seen Mandy. I mean, Nick is incredible anyway, and seeing him in that movie, it just really makes sense that he embodies such a great father figure character who literally falls apart at the seams and loses the fabric of time and all reality. Nick does it incredibly well. Even knowing how wonderful he is, getting to witness it in person and work with him, it's really special. So yeah, I'm again very grateful for that opportunity to be with him, and another lovely guy, which is a treat.
Can you talk about the unique magic both of Lovecraft and of Mr. Nicolas Cage?
Oh, okay. The unique magic of Lovecraft and Nicolas Cage. I mean, I feel like they're a match made in heaven. Lovecraft, I feel like our movie keeps the spirit of Lovecraft alive, and Nick is he's one of the most, I think, terrific actors on this planet. What he does with acting, that he elevates it to this other realm that I feel like a lot of actors don't even see the opportunities in. And so I feel like that's the magic in himself. You're on set watching him make these choices and bringing the script alive in ways you didn't even think it was possible. And it is such a joy and a thrill to work with him and just like breathe in that magic.
I think all of the Lovecraft stories, be they short or long, have something special, memorable. For people who aren't familiar with this particular story, can you maybe just give us a very brief synopsis and talk to us a little bit about what you feel that story represents?
Ooh, okay, so it's a brief synopsis would be, it's about a family in a small New England town, and a meteorite lands in their front yard. And it starts to affect them in bizarre ways, in physical ways, through the groundwater, their mental health. And I feel like that's my brief synopsis. In terms of what it represents, I feel that it represents, I feel like it represents community and how we're so affected by nature and our environment, and how that affects our beings and affects our relationships with people in a grander scheme of things, and our relationship to the universe. And ultimately, I don't want to ruin the ending, but I feel like it ultimately has to do with people's relationships to the environment and nature and to the universe as a whole.
Well, Jack is kind of like, I mean, he's scared in some ways when the color comes, but when it's like at the beginning of the story, he's like a sweet, loving boy. He still has a little bit of a fear about kind of some things, but like he's better than when he was like taken by the color.
So I play Benny, who's one of the kids in the family, and he's the middle child. And so, yeah, just part of the family that this wild craziness happens to.
What do you think is so uniquely magical and horrific about Lovecraft's writing? Why do you think it captures our imagination so powerfully?
I mean, I think there's so many interesting qualities to it. I mean, it is fantasy, but it is kind of, I mean, it is that perfect mix of fantasy and horror, in that there is these elements of that are scary and horrific, but there's a weird beauty to them too, and there's almost an otherworldliness to it as well. And I think that blending can be very interesting. I mean, I think that's what you see in this movie here and in some of the writing, is you have this mix of something so horrible and so beautiful at the same time. I mean, that's the whole idea of the color, you know, something that we associate as something that can be beautiful. We love colors, and then in this it has a different connotation. So
course, Nick Cage is a unique presence on screen. Can you talk about what it's like to work with him, what he's like when the camera isn't rolling?
Well, I mean, first off, just such an incredibly nice guy, just really, really easy to talk to, really fun to joke around with and have conversations with. He's, as many people know, he's a huge film fan. He's a cinephile, and so to listen to him talk about cinema, he's often, you know, lots of the choices that he makes in this movie and other films are referenced by other things he's seen and stuff, and so to hear him talk about that is pretty amazing. And yeah, he's just a really, really nice guy, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey